Good morning, podcast listeners. This is Ed Franklin with the No Limits podcast. You can always get a hold of me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. Thought I'd do a quick podcast today before the Easter weekend starts. It is Good Friday. Just got back from the gym, and while I was there, I was just kind of thinking about setting goals and not quitting, and all those positive things. I hope I'm getting across to you. And I want to kind of reset my podcast. Next week, I have a really good guest that has a really good story talking about getting over limitations. You do not want to miss this podcast. It's a really good guy. He's my new friend. His name's Mike Ryan, and it's a good podcast. We talk about diet and exercise for a little while, and then he gets into his story, and it's pretty crazy how what he overcame. And in addition to that, Mike's pretty open book, so he was real honest with me and vulnerable about some things in his life. And as we're getting up there in the years, we need to open up a little bit and talk to people. And it was a really nice conversation we had. So make sure you see that podcast next week with Mike Ryan. But as I was sitting at the gym today, and I was just kind of thinking about, New Year's comes along and people are making resolutions, and then Easter comes along, and this is really kind of a time of renewal. Excuse me. It's kind of it's springtime. The grass is growing, plants are growing, flowers are blooming, and it's a really good time. And just kind of get started again. If you've been putting things off a little bit, it's time to really get started. It's always a good time, any time of the year, any day of the year, to get started and not put things off. But during this time, especially in a lot of religions, this is really a time of renewal. It's a new beginning for you. So, if you're out there and you kind of been putting off, working out or eating right or looking for that new job, or, just trying to improve yourself, this is a great time to do it too. Like I said, any time of the year is a good time, but this is kind of the season for renewal. And like I said, I want to reset my podcast because um, even though I love my guests and sometimes we get a little bit off track, I want to really talk about getting over limitations in the future. So I'm going to do a lot more of that as we get going, and also telling your story. And like I said, Mike's got a great story that you can listen to. But I just want to wish all of you, this is going to be a very short podcast. I just kind of wanted to get on here on Good Friday. And like I said, every Friday is good, but this is Good Friday, and it's a big day, especially in the Catholic religion. This is like their Super Bowl. And we have so much bad news coming at us left and right from all over, from politics to the economy and all these things. And we really need to just kind of focus on ourselves, right? Focus on what we can do to change. We can't change everything that's going on, but we can change ourselves. And that's really kind of the main point of this podcast, is to know that if you have some goals or anything, you just need to get started. I have this saying that I would always post on Facebook and other places. It says, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. It's just little baby steps. I posted something today about, how many steps on a ladder on Facebook. If you look at that, you'll kind of get my point to it. It's just baby steps. It's just one thing at a time. You don't have to start going to the gym for an hour every, 5 times a week. You just got to go for a walk. Maybe today or this weekend, you just kind of get out in nature, go down to the beach, walk around, get those positive ions, negative ions, whatever the ions you're supposed to get that make you feel better. Maybe go for a walk in the park, take your dog for a walk, just go out 10 minutes. If you haven't exercised in a while, don't overdo it. If you overdo it, you're going to quit, and I don't want you to quit. So it's just those little baby steps. You got to, eventually you'll have a plan, but for right now, just do little things. I'm going to have Sean Carden on here, my trainer, again, because he kind of committed to doing something different with his business. And I think he's getting a lot of good results, and I'll get him on here. And if you remember Sean Carden, very high energy. He looks fantastic right now. He's been working out like a madman. And you can see how put that time in. In my podcast with Mike Ryan, we talk about how everybody just wants this instant gratification. And I got bad news for you. There's no such thing as instant gratification. I was listening to a TikTok video the other day with a guy that was talking about when you see a guy or a girl that's really good shape, there's a certain amount of respect, whether you like the person or not. You got to have respect for the fact that they started this journey knowing that it was going to take a long time. Right? It doesn't take a week. It doesn't take a month. You're talking about 90 days minimum to start really seeing those changes. And I know it's hard to look 90 days down the road, but think about this. 90 days ago was after Christmas, right? Yeah. So that and it feels like it just happened. So really, in the whole scheme of things, 90 days is nothing. If you look and just take a piece of 90 days out of your life, it's really not that big a deal. So, like I said, this is going to just be a short podcast. I don't want to, drill in all this stuff to you. Like I said, next week, Mike Ryan's podcast is going to be on. I wish that all of you have a wonderful Easter. I hope you get together with your families, with grandkids, with kids, whoever you're getting together with, your parents, whatever, and just having a fantastic holiday. Um, Try to stay away from the sugar. I know that's hard during this time. See, it's hard for me because I love jelly beans and all these other little goodies that the kids get that I end up eating half of. So, like I said, just let's look at this season as a renewal. It's spring, summer's coming soon. We want to get those summer bodies in shape. We want to get our head right. We want to be reading those books, hanging out with those people that are going to move us forward. We want to do all those positive things, and we'll elaborate a lot more on those. We're going to have a lot more guests that are more uplifting and have some good information for you. Jennifer Hooper, who I had on a couple podcasts ago. If you haven't listened to her podcast, go and listen to it. It's one of my most listened to podcasts. She did a great job sharing my podcast, and I hope that you remember to share my podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and all those great things for me. So listen, I love all of you. I want to sit in that mud with you if that's what you need to do, or I want to help you and encourage you to set those goals, to reach those goals, whether it's physical, mental, educational, whatever the goal is, you got to get started. One little thing to start. Just use this weekend to get started on whatever goal we have. And it doesn't matter if it could be a minute or 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Go for a walk, 5 minutes one way, 5 minutes back. The next day, the next week, do 8 minutes out, 8 minutes back. Just get started. You'll be surprised on how good you feel if you just get started and get things going. So again, this is the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. I wish you all a happy Easter. I hope that you get to spend some time with your family, and I look forward to putting out some good content soon. So remember, you can contact me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. If you know a guest that would be good on my podcast, or you'd like to be on my podcast, let's talk about it and see if we can come up with something and have something good. So anyway, happy Easter. Go out and get some sun this weekend. If you're in San Diego, it's going to be a lot of it. And have a great time. We'll talk to you all soon.